For millions of years, big cats of the Panthera genus hunted alone. Tigers, leopards, and jaguars are solitary stalkers. Lions, however, chose a different path. They operate in prides, highly structured, deeply matriarchal family units. At the core of every group are the related females and their cubs, living and hunting side by side. This family tree consists of mothers, daughters, sisters, and grandmothers who raise their offspring communally. A coalition of resident males, who usually migrate in from elsewhere, acts as temporary protectors. This departure from solitary hunting was driven by the strict demands of the African savanna. Resources like water and shade are intensely contested here, and survival requires defending large territories and vulnerable cubs from rival predators. Working together allowed them to secure and hold high-quality land. The pride is a biological strategy, a highly coordinated social system allowing lions to dominate the plains. This social divisionum labor is physically built into the species through extreme sexual dimorphism. The lionesses are slightly smaller and lack manes, making them built for the stealth and speed required to execute coordinated ambushes on large herbivores. The males are specialized for warfare. They possess a much more massive skeletal frame, and their thick manes act as a biological shield against bites and scratches during brutal territorial fights. Protecting these territories requires sophisticated communication. Lions use roars that carry up to 8 kilometers to maintain contact and signal ownership. They also demonstrate a tactical sense of numeracy, listening to the roars of intruders and only engaging in physical combat if they mathematically outnumber the threat. To support a large group and maintain a healthy prey base, a single pride requires hundreds of square kilometers of pristine, unbroken land. This deep reliance on vast, exclusive territory makes the pride highly effective in the wild. But as human populations expand and fence off the landscape, this exact biological requirement leaves the lion uniquely vulnerable to losing its space. This map illustrates the massive historical empire of the lion. 10,000 years ago, they roamed across North America, through the Balkans and the Middle East, all the way down into India and across the entire African continent. Over centuries, they disappeared from the Americas and Europe. Today, their extant range represents only about 8 to 10% of their historical territory. What remains is highly fragmented into tiny disconnected pockets. As human populations grow, native grasslands and savannas are aggressively cleared and converted into crop fields and pastures for livestock. Simultaneously, the commercial bushmeat trade is severely depleting the populations of zebras, wildebeests, and antelopes. With their natural prey disappearing, starving prides inevitably turn to the livestock now occupying their former hunting grounds. When lions prey on cattle, herders often kill them in retaliation, sometimes using pesticides to poison carcasses. This conflict is heavily compounded by the illegal wildlife trade, where lions are poached for their bones, teeth, and claws. The biology that allowed lions to thrive, their absolute need for massive, continuous territories, now puts them on a direct and fatal collision course with human agriculture and expansion. The extreme end of this geographic isolation can be seen in India's Gir Forest National Park. This dry, deciduous landscape holds the world's only remaining population of the Asiatic lion. This data visualization maps a severe genetic bottleneck. By the late 19th century, this specific population had plummeted to fewer than 250 individuals. The current population descends entirely from that tiny group of survivors, resulting in a stark lack of genetic diversity. This level of inbreeding takes a biological toll. Studies show the lack of diversity causes severe sperm abnormalities and leaves the entire population highly susceptible to epidemics. Conservation efforts have successfully helped the Gir lions rebound to over 670 individuals. Yet proposals by the Indian government to establish a vital second, independent population have faced political resistance from the state government. Guarding a perimeter against poachers cannot protect an animal from microscopic threats. When a pride is trapped on an ecological island, unable to mix their genes with outside populations, a single natural disaster or disease outbreak could wipe out the entire subspecies. The IUCN's recent Green Status Evaluation officially categorizes the global lion population as largely depleted, emphasizing how far they are from full recovery. But that same assessment assigns lions a high conservation legacy. The intensive management, anti-poaching measures, and community programs implemented over the last century have successfully prevented total regional extinctions. The next step in securing their survival requires curing genetic bottlenecks through the creation of ecological corridors, continuous ribbons of protected land that connect distant reserves. Establishing these pathways means working directly with the people who live alongside them. Effective community-based programs offset the costs of living near predators by compensating herders for livestock losses and training locals as wildlife guardians. Long-term conservation cannot rely solely on walling off shrinking national parks. It requires erasing boundaries and restoring the natural pathways that allow nomadic males to travel, interbreed, and diversify the gene pool. Lions act as ecosystem engineers, with their presence as apex predators dictating the density and movement of massive grazing herds. By hunting herbivores like zebras and wildebeests, lions prevent them from congregating in one area for too long. This predation pressure keeps grazing levels sustainable, allowing a diverse array of plant species to flourish. These healthy, undisturbed grasses can then develop deep, complex root systems that stabilize the soil. These intact grasslands serve as vital carbon sinks, sequestering atmospheric CO2 into the earth, an ecological service that relies directly on the presence of the predator. The health of these massive, continent-spanning processes can be traced back to the smallest unit of the pride. The stability of the ecosystem relies entirely on the survival of the matriarch and her cubs. The social structure of the pride is the foundation of this biological balance. Ensuring these families can continue to hunt, breed, and roam preserves the integrity of the wild spaces that sustain us all.